Welcome back to Wrestling Travel Presents the Lockdown Sessions. Today we are very happy to welcome Bill DeMott. Bill, how are you doing today?
How you doing, Justin? Good to see you. All is well here in Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize. I thought you were still up on Jersey area.
I can't. It's one of those things you can take the boy out of Jersey, but that's always home. I probably still sound like I'm lived there. I hear that a lot from people down here. My accent, but we've been down here. We've been in Florida a long time, so yeah, bro.
You still a Giants fan? It was the Giants, right?
And born and raised. It's a struggle. It's a struggle, but we're Giants fans, man. I can't jump. I can't leave it. So it's
Yeah. No, I'm a Packers fan, and I'm calling you from Wisconsin. I got a really good friend who's a Giants fan, and he called me the day they signed Blake Martinez, and I said, "Hey, you guys are going to be pretty happy with him. He's a good locker room guy." And the guy that I think is going to be an unsung guy for you is Kyler Fackrell, playing outside linebacker.
They got a lot of young cats. My son, who he's 11, was so up on the draft and so knowledgeable about all these young kids coming out of college and everything. I'm going, what the? So when I missed an ESPN segment or something, or I missed part of the draft, I just, we're sitting at dinner. I go, hey, Butch, what happened with the draft? He lays it out for me, and this is why this guy's good, and this is why this guy's good. I'm going, what the hell? But we should have you can only go through so many years of saying it's a rebuilding year, but I think this is one of them. You guys are going to be coming up against that soon. You're gonna. This could be your last year of a few veterans, and it's those moments where you go, we've been together so long. Where you going? But hopefully we're gonna have a season. That's my thing, is I just want to watch football.
Yeah, college, pro, anything. That's what I'm worried about, is just not having the season. I mean, even if they do it without fans, I need that Saturday afternoon. I mean, college might be a little bit harder because, getting the students back on campus, but pro, I mean, we've had it. You and I have never not had a season. We're not 110 years old,
Not to have a season, no matter what the circumstance was. So it's isn't that funny? That's the big thing we worry about. Is we talk about it all the time. Is, well, crap, we made it a football season.
Yeah. Now, did you play football growing up?
Yeah, I played. I actually never. It's funny. Raised by a single mom. I was the middle. I have a younger brother and an older sister. Sister a year older. My brother's a year younger, so I was right in the middle. So single mom, I never had that availability to go play organized sports, and you were always home because she was working. And a mom who didn't know sports at the time. I'm 54, so I grew up when, it sounds funny to say, but your dad taught you sports, and your dad taught you this, and you were out with your dad and doing these things, or an older brother, or cousins or stuff like that. So I didn't start playing organized sports until my junior year in high school.
Okay.
So I started playing football then, and I took right to football. Track, and wrestling. And then a side note that's always funny now at my age is I became one of the first male cheerleaders in New Jersey.
Really?
And so in high school, I got dared by my psychology teacher. She wanted to have male cheerleaders, and she'd leave the wrestling team, and well, wouldn't you know, I'd be the one guy to walk into wrestling practice and say, I'm quitting a team. You're doing what? I'm quitting a team. What are you going to do? I'm going to be a cheerleader. So, lo and behold, man, so organized sports we started junior year, and I did all those things. I played football in college. Short-lived. I played some football after on a semi-pro level. Men's always looking for that thing, that men's softball and stuff like that. So I've been around the sports, and then, long story short, double dared into wrestling, and then that was it.
Yeah, that's the thing about football. I played myself as well a little bit in college, but it's not a lifetime sport. It's not. We don't have a softball league or a bowling league. It's just when it's done, it's done.
Yeah, I didn't know what I coached for a little bit after. I coached went back home when I left school and coached Pop Warner, which was great, because I love. I absolutely love football. It's one of those things. Man, if I would have started football when I was my son's age, but here he is 11, and I'm not letting him get on the field
Right.
because of what we know, and he doesn't really necessarily do it right now and start. In wrestling, you call it your bump card. Or I don't need his tackle card, hit card being filled up at by 15. So, but yeah, I guess I was somewhat of an athlete.
I ended up coaching back in 2005 at my high school for 1 year. And I tell you what, speaking of, your son and his knowledge now, their playbook was much thicker than my college playbook. It was unbelievable. How I said I didn't know any of this stuff when I played high school. And it's crazy.
I don't know how they play now.
Yeah.
You got to be like air traffic control to figure out,
Yeah.
I was, that's why I love Howie Long. He came out and said he couldn't read a playbook and understand it. He just knew what's my job, and he did it. He couldn't read when he first started playing. He didn't understand the playbook. I mean, when we played, it was X's and O's and there was a few stunts. Just please tell me the name of the stunt and what am I supposed to do? And that's what we did. Now, and to your point, now when you're coaching, even now I coach, coaching my son's baseball team, everything is so complex and people giving signs, and I'm going, well, I don't know if he's bunting, but this should be interesting.
Literally my senior year of high school, our first game, I remember we had 8 plays. We had 3 run plays and a pass play. And then the other 4 plays were those flipped. I mean, that's it. And then I go into coaching and they've, here's in 2005, here's the playbook. Yeah. And then we're gonna install the rest in the middle of the season. So I don't want to get too far on football because I could talk about this.
Yeah.
But I will ask one more football question.
Sure.
Just because I'm a Packer fan and you're Giants. Now, I'm looking at in the next couple of years possibly not having Aaron Rodgers anymore. How are you as a fan with Eli Manning now and going over to Daniel Jones? Because Eli Manning carved us up in the 2007 game to go to the Super Bowl. I always tell my buddies that I have never seen a guy put the football in places during that championship game where nobody else was getting it.
That was just it. He had his moments of, like, it was just magic. And I've always said his whole career, I've never been on the Eli bandwagon. I've never been a Eli. I'm a Giants fan. The team, I'm a defensive guy, but I've never been a true Eli fan. But watching what happened and how it happened, did he deserve it? Who knows? No. So I'm a fan of what he's done as a football player, but to put all your, like, here comes Danny Dimes and out goes Eli, who's done everything for you, and you see this come in, and then so that's what we talk about. Aaron Rodgers is another one of those guys. So these new kids are going to come in, and where's because Rodgers is still a magician. He can still throw the long ball. He's that leader, and I think that's what things that are missed coming in. So it's going to be very interesting full season now without Eli. I'm sure it was without Peyton and without Favre and all these other greats. But now to see, I don't know what you guys are going to do, because these kids that are coming out of college and they are just kids. Your man's battle tested. he's war ready. He's a veteran. He's battle tested. You're gonna pick up a guy that's played the game somewhere, been pretty good and gotten drafted, and he's gonna have a bunch of grown men hunting him down. And that's where I feel we're at with the Giants. No matter how good this kid is or they think he can be, he's not battle tested yet. So we're losing, much like you guys are going to be, we're losing warriors, on the field. So it's definitely, I don't think it's hard because I'm a diehard fan, but I know a lot of people you talk to go, I'm out. A lot of people just, I'm out. Here's my tickets, and so and you can't. How do you question them? That's their gut. That's what they're feeling. But I'm diehard Giants. I think Eli got the wrong deal. First ballot Hall of Famer, I think. So while I wasn't on his cheering squad the whole time as a football player, can't take anything away from him. I just wanted him more nasty at the right times, a little bit more emotion,
Right, you're right, and he did have his moments, and he had that Packer championship game where he was dropping them balls everywhere, and then like my buddy says, then he throws 6 interceptions in a game or something. It was just peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
But back to the we're called Wrestling Travel. I suppose I should talk a little wrestling with you. What I was wondering is young Bill DeMott, pro wrestling. Who, when you're young, does somebody first catch your eye, or were you watching? How did you first kind of discover pro wrestling? What kind of gave you the bug?
No, I came up. So I'm trying to. How do I put it into context? So I graduated high school '83. So that'll give you an idea of my age. So I'm 54. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the wrestling bug. I knew of it. I always tell being from New Jersey. Back then, you had MSG was Saturday nights, I think, and it was always Bruno, Pedro Morales, the midgets, which you're not allowed to say midgets anymore. But it was the midgets. No offense to anybody. And then you had like a women's match or something like that. So the Garden was out there, and you saw the Garden, whatever it was, every other week or every week, and MSG, and I'd watch that with my grandfather, and you kind of got, it was pretty cool, it was entertaining, but I didn't have the bug. And I guess it was coming into the Warrior and Hogan and Savage and all those guys into the 80s, the late 80s, and I was brought it was my stepdad, my dad, wanted to bring him into Brooklyn, and I met Johnny Rods, and because my dad was born in the Bronx, so he brought me to Brooklyn and showed me this place where they wrestled, Gleason's Gym. And I was saying, and the story is I was simply told it wasn't for me. Johnny Rods came over and told me, he goes, you're not able to do that. You're more than welcome to watch, but it doesn't look like this is for you. So I went home with an attitude. My father and I watched a little bit more, and went home with an attitude of, that guy doesn't even know who I am. How does he know that's not for me? Which, watching it, I was like, Jesus, why the hell would they do that? It didn't make sense to me what they were doing. But I took offense to the fact of him telling me, you don't know me and you're telling me it's not for me. And I'm just leaving college, and I'm pretty good size, and I'm an athlete, and I got a chip on my shoulder at 19 years old or whatever the hell I was. And who are you to say that? So I went and steal a line, begged, borrowed, stole, came up with $3,500, paid it up front all at once, said I'm in. And that was it. That was it. And then I was told, back when, nobody will understand this on your show now, but back, if they Google it, VHS tapes was the only way to get wrestling, or read a magazine, or go to the library and get the magazines back at the time, or the newsstands. And so I started renting tapes and watching things and trying to get my hands on anything wrestling I could. And I just sat and listened to conversations. And when people talked about it, asked them what they meant by that. can someone show me that? And and in between the training, because back then you trained with Johnny however long you wanted to stay there. So I was in Gleason's gym. I'd come in from New Jersey every day of the week and be there for 5 and 6 hours a day, and then drive home, and then Advil and 2 beers and a cigarette, and go back there the next day and try to get it again. But I didn't have a love for it. It wasn't, I was going to play football. I was going to do other things, and then I found it, fell in love with it, and then became a student of it. So.
Yeah, wow. I mean, and you're talking 1988 was your debut, right?
In 1988 is when I started. And then I always go by, so when people say, well, I've been a professional wrestler since 1988. No, I've been a professional wrestler since 89, because that's all I did to make money then.
Right, okay.
I left bouncing and everything, wrestling was my income. And as small as it was, that was my income, but that's when I started making my bones. And then 90, I left for 90, 91, I left for Puerto Rico. I'm not good with the dates anymore. But started in 88, and it took off from there. And I first time I got the wind knocked out of me, I was hooked. I was like, how do I fix that? And what do you mean I got to do it again tomorrow? Okay, how do you figure that out? And so it was different from football. It was different from, everything else that I was learning. And again, I just got hooked on the art. And Johnny had a way of presenting. And I always say Johnny Rods, and you'll hear a couple of his guys say the same thing, that Johnny taught you about the business while you were learning the business. He everything was, I'd like to think if he saw it in you, he taught you more than just a front face lock. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was the thing. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's like this evil guy who can tie me up in knots and make me cry. And I know at 6'2", 300 pounds, I can kick his ass all over that gym. I know it. And the minute he touched me, he wraps me up and ties me up, and I can't move. And he's controlling my breathing and controlling my mind. And now he's in my head. And oh my God, how do I stop this? And how do I then learn how do I learn to do that? And then all the fanfare, and then the show, and then the glitz and the glam. But he taught you from the ground up, And
now, why do you think he said that to you right away, that he didn't think the business was for you, now that you've had time to reflect on it? And then my follow-up question is, when you began training people, did you ever have that feeling of, hey, this might not be for you, or were you wary of that from your experience?
I feel like at that time, and I could be way off, but this was my feeling. At that time, business was good in wrestling. And what was the worst thing that was going to happen if he told me it wasn't good for me? I agreed and never came back. Wrestling still goes on. He had a bunch of big guys in there. But to me, it was more, and back then, and earlier we were talking, and you've been a coach, and back then there used to be a thing called the gut check. And you used to be called out. And if you thought you were good, then you'd have to prove it. Or you thought you belonged, you'd have to prove it. And I felt like, and I came from football, and I came from wrestling, and I came from being coached. So I felt like he was letting me know right then and there. Like, he didn't say, get the hell out of here. I wouldn't train you for $1 million. That's not for you. And kind of dismissed me. But I can stay and watch. So it was almost like I feel like I was dared, you know what I mean? And I feel like he called me out. And I think I answered what he wanted done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the other side of it, I didn't look at it that way when I became a coach, and I started just even working with guys, years and years down the road. I felt like anybody who had a question deserved an answer. And because I was treated so well by my coach and by guys that were veterans in front of me who would let me ride with them, who would drop knowledge on me, that anybody was able to train. What I always did say was within the first couple hours, I'd have a feel if it was for them or not. You know, to be fair to myself and to anyone I ever said that to. But I always thought everybody had a right to try it. And then truly it wasn't for a lot of people for different reasons. But I felt like I was one of those tests. But back then, if you were an athlete and you'd been coached, you knew what coaches were saying to you and what they were trying to get out of you and how they treated you and things like that. And you didn't take it personal. I think if I would have taken it more personal, I'd be like, screw you, man. 45 minutes each direction. You know.
Yeah.
And I can go be a bouncer and have girls look at me.
I'm gonna jump way ahead now to WCW. What was it like? I remember I'm about 10 years younger than you, so but I do remember in college watching, flipping back and forth between Nitro and Raw. But I remember watching the No Laughing Matter and the stuff. And I'm going to say from a bunch of football guys in the mid to late 90s, you were over with us doing the moonsaults and stuff. And I got to say, it took me a long time to figure out humorous. I did just because I was just locked in and I didn't really take that. But what was it like being you're right in the middle of the Monday Night Wars and the popularity. What was that like?
Scariest thing ever. I came to WCW in 95 and walking right into the middle of it. I'm in Japan and Mexico. I'm out of that. I'm in that business, but I'm out of mainstream still at the time. Because even then Japan was its own entity and Mexico was its own entity, and I was doing well in both places. And so you're watching all these guys, and if you're happy in your position, you're still going, how do I get there? How does that happen? So when I got had the opportunity in 95 when I joined, I'm like, whoa. So it was my first 6 months, I was very intimidated inside and watching it and I was trying to get the new lay of the land, but there was no lay of the land. It was roughshod. Everything was, by the seat of your pants. And then by the time you figure that out, you're all in and stuff. But it was intimidating, but it was cool, man. Every day was something different. And it was like, what the hell is going on? And you had to establish who you were. So I took advantage of the times I could. And, I got put in that faction of bigger guys who could bump for everybody. So my matches were further apart than my involvement in the shows, which I was involved in almost every show because I was, as the Dungeon, you were doing run-ins for Hogan and Savage and in cages and all this other stuff. And the Dungeon's getting bounced around all over the place. And then you'd have your matches on the in-betweens. So I tried to do those, the flips and the kind of the stuff that big men weren't really doing here yet. But I was told early on that stuff's done. I was a punch kick guy. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do like the 450 and I can do all these things. No, you can't. Just do this. So when they said, okay, it's your match, do what you want, that's where I made sure the moonsault was there. That was my finish, the last laugh and all these other things. And when I got the name Hugh Morris, I didn't get it either. So I went into the office and I said, I don't understand. You got to clear it up. Because it actually was humorous. And I don't know if it was Shivani or Bobby Heenan who said Hugh Morris, split it up. And I literally asked the question, who would name their kid Hugh? And they looked at me like I was, is he kidding? Is this really his problem? So then they made me the laughing man, Hugh Morris. And I went, okay, I guess I get it.
Now I don't feel as bad.
Oh, I didn't get it. It was my,
Yeah.
it was on my tights and it was on my, I was like, can I change my name to Chet? I don't know what the.
Years later, I'm at a summer camp, and male and female, and this girl's name is Holly Schmidt, and I thought you could just yell, "Holly Schmidt, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So, and then I started to put together the humor. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because this just came into my head, and and if I'm wrong, I'm going to be really wrong. So I'm putting it all out there. Goldberg started that streak. Weren't you one of the first matches? Because I do remember, I think I recall you in there, and I thought, there's no way Hugh Morris is going to kill this guy.
Number one match.
Okay, there we go.
First match. That's, I think, after 30 years in the business, that's one of my claims to fame. Weren't you the guy Goldberg? That's the thing the kids, as they go through the network. Hey, your dad, the guy Goldberg? Yeah.
Okay, and I was, because I remember we used to order the pay-per-views, all the football guys. We'd invite people over, charge them $5 to come in, and we'd actually make money off it, but we were always on there Monday night. And I do remember who's this guy? Bill Goldberg, and we got Hugh Morris.
And I think they weren't even going to use, I'm not sure how the story actually came about. I believe they weren't sure what they were going to do with Bill at the time, character-wise or name-wise, so they weren't going to use his name.
Okay.
As the thing, But by the end of it, they called him Goldberg in the interview, and people started, going Goldberg. So
the rest is history, yeah.
Early in the day, and I heard an interview years ago, and Sullivan saying that he handpicked me for that, position to hopefully do the right business with Bill. And I always said I like Bill, get along with him famously. I think he's a hell of a guy. I thought it was a great. I thought that match did as much for me as it did for him. Naturally, did a lot more for him. Mm-hmm. But I think that's I put that as a feather in my hat that my boss would say, we need, who's the bumper, who's going to be the guy, and hopefully if he's a big enough guy to get our guy over, So yeah, and then and I would say during the streak, a little comedy during the streak. I was his first match, and that was his 17th match, and his 23rd match, and his 40th match, and because what was the streak, like 290 whatever?
Yeah,
and there's only so many of us that could go. But Bill, he was always great whenever we did stuff with him. Be honest, that's me, first one.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did the job for us when we were fans, because there's no way that you were going to lose to who's this guy. Yeah. And then,
the one thing he did do, I think he did it, Goldberg did a thing with Stone Cold, and they were watching the match, and Goldberg, so, Steve says, Hugh Morris is a big guy to get up there for the jackhammer. And Goldberg said, yeah, and it was all me. I heard that and I went, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you drinking your own Kool-Aid? I love Goldberg, but if I didn't want to go, I wasn't going.